I've often said we live in an era obsessed with nostalgia, so perhaps I shouldn't be surprised by the latest trend taking Twitter by storm, the TRADWIFE. This is a movement that celebrates being a, quote, traditional housewife, homemakers who are happy to submit to, keep house, and spoil their husbands like it's 1959. Cue lots of tips for soup dining etiquette, home-baked scones, and above all, how your husband should always come first. Glorifying the past is rarely based on facts, and the fact that the 1950s was a time when many women did work for less pay and with fewer opportunities, when they weren't entitled to control over their reproductive health, where domestic violence and abuse was often normalised, where feminine ideas were synonymous with being middle class and white. Women fought for feminism for a reason, so that we could have choices. If you want to use the gains of that activism to raise children or do domestic work, that's your right. But suggesting that the role of a traditional housewife is somehow the authentic version of femininity is actually contributing to the power systems that oppress us. And I, for one, am not nostalgic for that.
Well, I actually like to come in first on this because I've got serious skin in the game here, is that my wife has recently quit work to be a, I don't know what word is, I remember in the 80s it was housewife, and then it was homemaker, stay-at-home mum is the American version, but I've got to say my life's a lot better. It is a lot better. She runs a tight ship. You know, I've got a little hook for different keys now. You know, and is
that what it's come to? You're living the dream, aren't you?
Now, her happiness is not solely based on how I feel about it, and I can promise you, it's not done in the style of her with an Alice band, sort of straightening my tie as I go to work. You know, she's running a house, and I just see the benefits basically to my son. My mum was at home at a similar point in my life, and I can't ignore the fact that that was valuable to me. And you know, you mentioned the phrase happy wife, happy life. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of studies that suggest that this is true, and I think that a lot of men will realise that certainly once you've had a kid as well, that is almost sort of the hub of the home's emotional life, and everything flows from that. So whilst look, I mean, it's up my blood pressure, her not working, so it's not all a one-way street. I can't ignore the benefits.
Can I, and I want to bring everyone else in, and I will, but I just want to clear up a few things, because I'm not saying that women shouldn't stay at home. I mean, feminism is about choice, and I don't want people to police the choices women make. And I think that staying at home is work, and I think it should be valued. I mean, it's not an easy ride. It's a lot of work. I've been at home with the baby. I took a year off when my daughter was born. It's really hard work. And I think it is often what women want, and it's good for children if that's the choice that's made. My point is, it doesn't have to be the woman who makes that choice. The man can also choose to stay at home, and also many people are not financially in the position to have the luxury of having one parent stay at home. So what my worry is that when you cast the stay-at-home mother as the kind of ultimate woman, that is so unfair on the majority of people who don't have financially the position to do that.
Why does it have to be taken as a judgment on the women that aren't doing that? Why can't you just say, this is for me a valuable thing? If women being financially independent and working is so obviously valuable, why are there, and I'm not talking exclusively about you, but there's been so many articles where a lot of people seem really challenged by this.
Because women fought so hard to have the right to be able to make the other choices.
I think, you know, I agree with your point, Afua, in the sense that the whole idea is that women should be able to choose.
Yes.
And actually, not everyone gets to choose. This is a very privileged option.
Right.
So if we look at...
But I work 7 days... I mean, the people that made this happen,
is you
I
have
work
a
6, 7
household
days
that
a
can
week.
afford to.
But
So
I've had to work more to make it
But
a reality.
you still have the opportunities that mean that you can work 6, 7 days a week and be able to afford to keep a whole household. A lot of people can't.
But sometimes all I'm saying is it does involve sacrifice to make it happen.
Oh, I agree. I agree. So this is a stat from 2019 which said that 75% of mothers with dependent children were in work in the UK, and that's because they have to be. Not everyone wants to be, but they have no choice. And one last thing, this is for you, Nick. I have found the event for you. Are you around early May?
If it's with you, yeah, I'll have to. Now I'm going to bring it about.
There's a trip. Do you fancy a trip to Florida?
It's getting better and better.
It's getting better. Well, the Make Women Great Again convention is being held, and this is what they have to say. Women today are being taught to act more like men. Where has that led us? skyrocketing rates of broken families, a documented decline in female happiness since the 1970s, and endless social and dating dysfunction. No longer will you have to give in to toxic bullying feminist dogma and go against your ancient biological nature as a woman. The men have arrived to help make women great again.
Wow. Before I say my piece, I'm very conscious that I've got an Alice band in today. So I don't know if that means I'm one step there or not, but I think you're massively overreacting.
Yeah,
I think if there's a collection of society who wants to live what was somewhat traditional roles, which has obviously now evolved, if that's their choice, that they want to stay at home and pleasure their man, I don't mean obviously, you know, I'm talking about...
I didn't know that came into the bargain.
You know what I'm talking about.
Now you got me.
But if they want to stay at home and they want to look after their home and prioritise their man, and that's an equal decision both parties make. Well, good on them if they're both happy.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah, but it's not.
It was a tasty spaghetti bolognese. I never got any of that.
It's not for me, and I would feel very insecure being subject to financial dominance by a man. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was completely earning nothing and my man held all the power. Nor would I, for example, if I ever got married, I wouldn't do the vows, love, honour and obey. Because if my bloke ever tried to get me to obey him, God, it'd be a long time coming, I tell you. So I'm not into all of that. But
that's what she just said, though.
I know, but I don't know why you're so riled up about it. Because if that's what they want to do.
You're so dismissive. You're
not dismissive at all.
Let's look at some of your... These women that submit.
No, that was their language.
No, they'll be making soup and... What was it? Soup and scones.
That's literally from her TRADWIFE site.
This is what they want to do.
And that's what Aswa's said.
That means that... But what... Actually, to understand... What is the problem then?
The problem is, right, that this movement is casting itself as the true woman. So this is what women really are. And the problem I have with that is that, first of all, it lets men off the hook for the fact I think a lot of working mothers are quite stressed out. We go to work
let men off the hook. This stat here,
work.
just to adopt my feminist cap, is time spent doing household chores each week, 16 hours women, 6 hours men. So, you know, it's...
Jeff's wife's happy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she might dispute that.
Well, no. Married to you.
I'm happy
to tell his wife
I'm not telling
how to live her life.
That's not what I'm saying. And also, I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with making that choice. I respect it, and I think it should be valued as work.
So
and
what
not
are you saying? Because I've misunderstood that.
What I'm saying is that the idea that what's truly feminine is to make these choices is exactly what got us in this position in the first place. And I'm just going to read you from Harriet Hall. She's an independent a journalist for The Independent who says it so well. There is nothing biologically natural about a woman staying at home, cleaning and darning socks. There's nothing innately feminine about chastity, making home-cooked meals ready on the table for 6 p.m. or adopting a subordinate position in a relationship. The idea of the feminine is entirely fictitious, a tradition merely set and ingrained and learned behaviours that were enforced over thousands of years of patriarchy. So the point is, this is choice. Choose it, but don't claim that one choice is inherently feminine or superior to the choices that other men make. And also, the reason, just to say, I think it's true that a lot of working mothers are stressed out. And the reason is because men don't share the domestic work equally. And that's the source of the problem.